This video is going to cover the topic of evaluating expressions. Be sure the date and topic are at the top of your page. The essential question for the video is, what does it mean to evaluate expressions? And we've been doing a lot of work with equations, variables, and expressions recently. We've also been reviewing and practicing order of operations, and all of this kind of goes under the umbrella of algebra. All of these are in the algebra category. And we're going to add to that evaluating expressions today. Let's think about this situation. So let's say we know Marx's cousin is 5 years older than Marx is. We can write this as an expression, right? We've practiced that a little bit. So let's say we're using y for Marx's age. We know that Marx's cousin is 5 years older. So we're going to add 5 years to Marx's age to know Marx's cousin's age, right? That's our expression. When we talk about evaluating an expression, that means that we're looking to calculate or find the value of the expression if we know the value of the variable, right? So let's say that we know that Marx is 11. If we know that Marx is 11, then when we rewrite this, we'll substitute y with 11, and then we'll write the rest of the expression. And from there, we'd say, oh, well, when Marx is 11, 11 plus 5 equals 16, right? So we know that Marx's cousin would be 16 in that situation. And of course, that would change, right? The answer would change if I had told you that Marx was 23, right? We would then replace y with 23 and solve. Or if Marx was 72, we would replace y with 72 and solve, right? So we substitute the variable with the value that we know, and we solve. And of course, we use order of operations. Let's look at another situation, this time talking about bowling. So the cost of bowling is $4 per game, and then $3 to rent shoes. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn this into an expression. So I'm going to use G for game. And I know it's $4 per game. And we can write that this way, right? This means 4 times the number of games we want to play. And I know it's $3 more to rent shoes. So this is an expression that matches this situation. If I know I want to play 5 games, I want to bowl 5 games, then I'm going to evaluate the expression for when G is 5. So 4G plus 3 is my expression, and I want to evaluate it when G is 5. So what I need to do is substitute the letter G with the number 5. First, I'm going to show you the wrong way. So sometimes people do this. They say 4, I'm going to put the 5 right here, and then add 3, and they might think their answer is 48. But in this situation, you can probably guess 48 doesn't make any sense, right? What this really means is that we have 4 times our value of G, which is 5, plus 3. And I know that because I remember that the coefficient is a multiplier. It tells us how many of something there is, right? So there's 4 5s plus 3. So now that I have it set up, I'm just going to use order of operations, and I'm going to do my multiplying first. So that would be 20 plus 3. My answer is 23. So if I evaluate the expression 4G plus 3 when G is 5, my answer would be 23, right? And this would change if I played a different number of games or substituted a different value in for G. And of course, in math class, we often practice a skill with repetition so we can become more fluent at it. And we don't always use situations. So let's just do a few straight expressions without any context. One expression might be 50 minus 6h. And maybe we want to evaluate that expression when h is 7. And I'm always using order of operations when I do this, but let's go ahead and fill in what we know. So we have 50 minus 6, we've got our multiplier here, times 7. We're going to substitute 7 in. And I don't have parentheses or exponents, but I certainly have multiplication. So I do that first. And then I rewrite what I haven't used, and I find out that I evaluate my expression. My answer is 8. So I took my expression, I looked at what my value was for my h variable, and then I evaluated it using order of operations. All right, so we always want to refer to our order of operations, so I have that up here. We have another expression, 2 parentheses x minus 11 when x is 15. So we'll go ahead and substitute 2. We'll make this a 15 instead of x minus 11, right? And we have our order of operations, so I'm going to be using my parentheses first. And when we have this parentheses and we finish what's inside and there's just this number sort of floating, there's that invisible multiplication, right? This means 2 groups of whatever inside our parentheses. So I could always just add that in there if it would help. But I don't want to forget about it when I get to the bottom, because then I can solve this and say the answer is 8. So when I evaluated that expression with the variable x equivalent to 15, the answer was 8. Here's another one to try, and you can try this, pause the video, try it before I solve it. But I have 15 minus c squared divided by 4, and I'm telling you that we want to evaluate this if c is worth 6. So we'll substitute that in where we know it goes and solve using our order of operations. How'd you do? Did you correctly put 6 in for c and then follow order of operations doing the exponent, then the division, and then finally our subtraction for a total of 6? If so, you successfully evaluated that expression. For your turn, I would like you to evaluate the expression you see here when x is worth 7. So be mindful of order of operations, be mindful of substituting correctly with that coefficient, and see if you can get the value. And the essential question, of course, was what does it mean to evaluate expressions? And we've seen through practice what that means, right? It's part of the algebra umbrella that we are taking a value, putting it in or substituting it in for the variable, and then using our order of operations to identify the value of an expression. Be sure to bring all your notes and any questions you have to class.